2/3 of students who cannot read proficiently by the 4th grade will end up in jail or on welfare. And high school dropouts were 63 times more likely to be incarcerated than college grads. I'm currently taking a class called Diverse Learners, taught by Marissa King. It's an education class. And because I was not in the prerequisite last fall, it's titled Intro to Ed, I had to do research over the summer, and my research centered around education, the individual classroom, and culture necessary for success. But more importantly, my topic was about resegregation and its effect on education. While segregation is considered a thing of the past, it is clear that resegregation is a sweeping issue that is affecting the diversity of communities and, more importantly, the diversity of our schools. As a college student, it's clear that every one of you has value for education, but imagine that you were unable to get that education. Today, I hope to shed some light on the issues of resegregation and the role it plays in inequality of education throughout America. First, it's important to remember that resegregation is a current issue plaguing America. Between 1971, the beginning of integration, and 1988, the peak of integration, the achievement gap between racially segregated schools decreased by 21 points. That means that in those 17 years, there was a drastic change of 21 points. Since 1988, however, resegregation has occurred, and yes, you guessed it, the achievement gap has grown. Estimates show that there was really only one generation of integration in our country. And Erica Frankenberg, an education policy studies professor at Penn State, along with Gary Orfield, professor of education law, political science, and urban planning at the University of California, shared in their book, The Resegregation of Suburban Schools, that our nation, our suburban nation, views resegregation as an urban issue, when in fact, resegregation today is happening mostly in the suburbs as white people leave to the outskirts of the suburbs. A good example of this is in a podcast produced by This American Life. The title was The Problem We All Live With, and it shares the story of a young girl experiencing resegregation in action in Normandy, Missouri school district. Maria was part of an unaccredited school and received visibly lower education than acceptable. Unaccredited schools are known for having fewer resources, less qualified teachers, and unsuitable facilities. So Maria's mom was really concerned about her education and started looking into private schools, which they could not afford. So they considered sending her to a public school in another district. However, when you do that, when you cross district lines, they also charge tuition. Lucky for them, though, in 2013, these unaccredited schools were no longer able to accept students or teach the current students they had. So all the students in the Normandy school district were able to choose schools outside of their own district that were accredited. So Maria attended Francis Howell school. It was largely white, and before this happened, Francis Howell held a community meeting, and the backlash was incredible. The parents started sharing about concerns with violence, their own accreditation dropping, drug concerns, really things that had nothing to do with the current situation, and ultimately they threatened to leave the school district because of the acceptance of the Normandy public school kids. So keeping Mari's story in mind, let's consider the implications of resegregation on education. There are stark implications on diversity when segregation is at play. Professor of Education at Stanford University, Linda Darling-Hammond, talks about a diversified world that we are growing up in, and that it's basically a sink or swim world where if we aren't learning diversity in our schools, when we get out into the diversified world, we will sink. So she claims that diversity is a huge impact of resegregation. There's also the impact of critical thinking skills. When we're exposed to difficult issues and conversations, our critical thinking skills are expanded, which is also a big stake in resegregation. However, there is hope. A possible solution to the issue of resegregation and unequal education is redefining area school districts, for instance, changing how we make up the school districts. Also, Nicole Hannah-Jones, the interviewer of This American Life, stressed that it is not Black and Latino kids performing better around white kids, or that the desire to learn is increased around white kids. It's simply that integration allows for equal opportunities and the diversity and critical thinking skills that we talked about earlier. Darlene Hammond suggests that the solutions to resegregation that are required are the community, as well as the teachers, the parents, and the students themselves making an effort. So it's evident that resegregation is a sweeping issue, and it's dragging along serious implications to education. As individuals who care about education and believe in its power, it is difficult to know where to tackle the problem. However, as the future educators, coaches, counselors, researchers of this country, there is a solution within reach. And education is opportunity, but without the opportunity to education, this nation is being deprived of incredible talent, inspiration, and greatness. Thank you.